Maggie Tokuda-Hall, welcome back to Inciting a Riot. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for
First,
having me again.
oh my gosh, of course. I am so happy to be celebrating Squad with you. Your first graphic?
It is my first graphic novel, but not my last, so
Congratulations.
that's
No.
exciting.
Oh, ooh, do we have breaking news?
It's not breaking. It got announced a little while ago. I have another one coming out in 2024, which feels like a very long time from now. Uh,
But
but
I
it's
get
about
how
like
publishing schedules
dirtbag.
work, which probably means
Yeah,
you wrote it like last week, and it's
I wrote it when I was pregnant with Noah. It sold a week after he was born, and it is scheduled for 2024.
I love
And it's about
this.
dirtbag samurais, and it's called The Worst Ronin,
Oh, I
and
love
I'm very
this.
excited.
I love that so much. So, but I do want to go ahead and chat with you today about Squad that
Hell yeah.
you wrote and Lisa Sterle illustrated. Big shout
Yeah,
out to Lisa Sterle, who folks that listen to
she's
this,
incredible.
yeah, folks that listen to this podcast will probably know she's the one responsible for the comic Witchblood and the Modern Witch Tarot deck and a bunch of other stuff that people probably know and love. So, big shout out and love to her. But I want to talk about this story, and I want to know where it came from.
Okay. Yeah, well, Squad is set in Piedmont, which is the real
Mm-hmm.
town that I grew up in. It's a suburb. It's its own city inside of Oakland in California. Basically, a bunch of rich white people in the early 1900s were like, "Well, we don't want to be part of Oakland," so they made their own city. So it's surrounded on all sides by Oakland. Just to give you like a little bit of a glimpse into what kind of town it is. It's extremely privileged. It's very white. It's very rich. Um, and when I graduated from Piedmont High, I was really mad. I'd seen a lot of things that really hurt me and hurt people around me. Um, Obviously, toxic masculinity is a subject that I'm interested in all of my work. But its particular effects on cis girls and this sort of demands on their constant perfection and obedience, while simultaneously being kind of brutalized, was the inspiration for Squad. I knew when I graduated that I wanted to write something someday that sort of told the truth about what it felt like to be there. And it took me such a long time. I tried so many times and it was never right. And then one day I realized I wanted to tell a story about girls from Piedmont who were werewolves, and it was like to the races from there. Like, I wrote the first draft of Squad in like a week because I was just like on fire with it. Um, and now it's a whole book that Lisa illustrated and did such a beautiful job with, and I'm so proud of both of our work on it. I really, what a match made in heaven from my perspective anyway. Lisa's been a complete angel to work with, and she's so talented, and it's so wonderful to get to see it so embodied now by her work as well.
I appreciate that you kind of talk about how difficult it is, or it was to write about Piedmont.
Yeah.
As a writer myself, it can be really hard. We want to write about home a lot. I mean, that's what made us, right? But
Right.
so often going back into those waters, diving back into those waters is perilous because that's the closest to home. That's the closest to inside. And I do, I mean, Becca is, I don't know her full ethnic background, but she's at least, her mom's Asian and she is
That's
Asian.
kind of a little Asian joke for just me. Because Piedmont was so white. And so, the fact that I was half Japanese and Fiona Chan was full Chinese, like, didn't matter. It was just, you're all Asians. And I don't know why I thought that that was so funny. And I still think that that's so funny that I love that they actually don't give her a chance to answer. Like, one of them
Fully,
asks, I think Marley asks,
Marley.
and then she gets talked over. And I was like, yep, that's how it feels. That's how it feels all the time.
So, so I wanted to ask about that because, one of the things that uh, we are never supposed to read our own reviews,
Right.
but I was interested in what the world had to say about Squad, especially as I was
Oh
prepping
no.
for the interview today. No. And I was interested in seeing how there are folks that read books like yours, but it's not just about yours. I was also like reading Keisha Blaine's new book, Until I Am Free. Just lots of books that are, on my to be read pile,
Yeah.
by authors of color. And I think it's really interesting how people hop in reviews and say, I'm white, but I think that the way that race or microaggressions or whatever is handled by this author of color is not right.
It's
So
wrong because it's not instructive. White people get real in their feelings when you show racism as you experience it, but don't tell them how to do better. And I think that that's hilarious, and I will not stop.
I
It's
and
not my job to educate you.
I loved it because the thing, I mean, I read it. I mean, I've read this twice now, and sure, I mean, as a person that experiences microaggressions and oppressive behavior from time to time, you recognize those kinds of things, and
Hmm.
but at some point, it's not Becca's job to constantly fight every battle all the time. And in fact, the first person to kind of provide a microaggression is the girl she ends up with.
Marley is constantly saying racist shit to Becca, and Becca doesn't care because Becca's got a boner for Marley. I think, like, it's not that she doesn't care. That's not fair. But, like, I think that she's willing to let certain things slide. And I think if you talk to most people of color who've had to hack it in primarily white spaces, and you have like a couple of choices. Either you can be constantly exhausted and like explaining things to people and being the person who's willing to educate them. You can be a person who's unwilling to educate them, but also willing to call them out. And I think that that's the bravest option. And certainly not the one that somebody who will literally die to belong would take. Becca is somebody who will kill people if it means she gets to belong. So she's going to let some microaggressions slide. And I think that you will find that anyone who is hungry for proximity to privilege is going to let things slide. She is not going to be the character who calls things out. The only one who I think is going to mature into the type of person who will be Amanda. But it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be Becca. Becca Becca murders people so that someone will be her friend. Like,
But do you find so Amanda is
mhm,
she's in the squad. She is
mhm.
the probably the token black character in the squad.
In the
if,
squad
if
for sure.
if
Yeah.
Becca is the token Asian, then Amanda is the token black character, and she certainly feels like that sometimes, and she calls that out. Is she calling this out because uh, she truly feels like it's aggression, or just in the same way that Becca lets things slide, is Amanda using it as a power play?
I think she's calling it out because she's sick of it.
Mm,
Like she's tired of it. Like she's done this. By the time we meet Amanda, she has already suffered through so much shit that Becca is just brand new into. So Becca's a lot more willing to suffer a lot of things than
mm,
Amanda is because Amanda's been doing this presumably for as long as she's lived in Piedmont.
sure.
Becca just got there. So her energy for white people nonsense is a lot higher than Amanda's is. And I really loved writing Amanda's character because I didn't want her to ever be a person who's like, hey, what you're doing is wrong because X, Y, and Z. She's a person who just has her own sense of what's right and what's wrong and what she's willing to suffer. And ultimately, she's the person whose decisions bear the most consequence in this story. And I loved that for her. I loved that she got to be so powerful without having to be a mouthpiece for, my beliefs or, what I would hope a young black woman in Piedmont might feel. Like I tried to empower her in more quiet's the wrong word because she's not quiet. I tried to empower her in ways that were like directly applicable to the plot.
Hmm.
Like she has the most bearing on the plot.
Oh, she for
That's it.
sure does. She for sure
Yes.
does.
And so,
And she provides an interesting twist at the end of the book.
yes.
Since we are talking about that, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, do you agree with how Amanda handled things in the end? I mean, you wrote it, so part of you
Yeah.
must agree. Yeah, part of you must at least be able to see her side.
Yes, I can absolutely see her side. I think I should say I don't agree with anything the girls do, really. I don't believe in the death penalty as much as I hate rape culture. So I do think that they're already taking things to like kind of a wacky place that I wouldn't have gone. Um, I think Amanda has the strictest sense of righteousness of all four of the girls. She's the only one with anything close to a moral center. And so, given the parameters of her problem, I think she did the best that she probably could. Um, and I get asked a lot if like there'll ever be a sequel, and I don't know. But if there was, it would definitely follow Amanda to Stanford because I do think
Mm.
that she's a person with like a lot of power, and it would be interesting to see her mature a little bit more into it. She's still a kid. Like this is YA. She's 17 and she's making life or choice death decisions. And so it's not, I don't think right and wrong are the best lenses to look at anything in this book with.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
Like,
this
that's just not,
this is all morally dark gray
yeah,
territory.
like
This is nobody
we're
comes out
already
of
in
this
the
looking good.
vigilante justice place. So when you're
Right.
already in the vigilante justice place, like, yeah, she probably did the best that could be done when you're dealing with teenage girl werewolves.
So that's the thing. I think I probably buried the lead a bit, but Squad is a squad of first three girls, then four once Becca joins. We've
Hmm.
got a very sort of classic trope. I mean, we've got some Heathers in here, we've got some Clueless, we've got some The Craft, we have Mean Girls. There was a moment of The Sandlot in there too, which I appreciated very much,
What moment of the Sandlot is in there?
where the mom tells her that you need to get into trouble for crying out loud. And I was like, oh,
Oh my God. Yeah.
yes. Oh, I was like, oh, I love a Sandlot moment. Yes.
Oh
Yes.
shoot. Hold on. I dropped my thing.
Oh, no.
Sorry. It's just my headphone. There we go. Now
You're
I can
fine.
hear you again.
Hi.
Okay.
But I partially because of the story, partially because of Lisa Sterle's brilliant artwork, it is a story that feels both classic. It would be
Hmm.
really easy for you to get 20 pages into this and think, oh my gosh, this feels like 30 stories I've read already, but also is so incredibly contemporary because each time somebody tells a story like this of where the camera is focused on the women, on a squad
Hmm.
of women, and not just women as side pieces for teen boy male ego. That
Right.
anytime the camera is focused on them, there are some similar elements. I very much appreciated the fashion montage. Thank you. But I appreciate that each time type of story like this is told, that it's told with a different point of view. What
Yeah.
is Squad's point of view? Because it's a squad of teen werewolves that punish rapey boy jerks by eating
Right.
them.
Um, I mean, I guess my philosophical center coming at it was I wanted to provide revenge fantasy for people who have been abused by rape culture.
Mm.
But I also wanted it not to be quite so simple. I think revenge is a really simple premise, and one that is most satisfying when it's complicated because it
Mm.
never, I mean, like the universal truth of revenge is that like it never actually does the trick. It never makes you feel better, never serves as justice. It's not a replacement. Um, but we exist in a world where our justice system doesn't serve victims of rape culture. We don't really have anywhere to go. And so on the one hand, I wanted to provide a fun, like, wouldn't that be fucking awesome if just this one time we had all the power to like get back at this, while still questioning what it means to have power at all.
Mm.
I am one of those people who thinks that power corrupts absolutely. I I know that's kind of grim and that's sort of a sad thing to talk to teenagers about, but I think at once it's incredibly enticing, and there are reasons why we feel like I'm the person who should wield it this time. And you're not wrong to think those and feel those things, but when you do, how do you make those decisions? And for me, the question of squad is, could I trust myself with that kind of power? And the answer is no. No, I could not. This is what it would look like if I had that kind of power. And it's not right. Like, that's not justice. I don't trust myself. I think that someone like me has too much anger to wield power responsibly. And so I don't know if that's its point of view, but it's certainly its philosophical center is about questioning what we do with power and if you can ever wield it responsibly.
The thing that keeps coming up in the story, and the thing that personally I felt differentiated it from a Heather's, a Craft, a Mean Girls,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, was the resurgence of the conversation about rules, society's
Mm-hmm.
rules. Not, I mean,
Yeah.
there's this concept amongst the squad of the rules, capital T, capital R, the rules that the squad
Yeah.
has for each other about, how to not get caught and the kinds of boys to eat and the kinds of boys to leave alone and yada yada yada. But you do have a lot of conversations throughout the story about rules and the way that we abide by them, whether or not we are conscious of the rules that we're abiding by. The mom has
Mm-hmm.
rules. And
Yes.
as explicit as the rules are amongst the squad, I think the really fine storytelling is done when the mom is talking to her about the reasons why they moved to Piedmont.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm very
was
touched because I loved writing those scenes.
they're brilliant. I wanted to just live inside them and I was just eating popcorn and just like watching mom and daughter just kind of like throw eyes at each other. But I was curious because that felt the most personal. It felt like that was when Maggie was sort of being very personal, talking about not just the rules, but about that conversation with mom. So talk to me a little bit about the social rules as you injected them into Squad.
I mean, to me, they're not her mother's role. Her mother is just sort of a conduit for obedience to the patriarchy, for lack of a less punchy way to put it. She's constantly policing her own body and Becca's body. There's like a little tiny moment where she's watching TV on her iPad as Becca leaves, and it's like a blow his mind ad for like some kind of lingerie product or something. And you
Ripped
get
me
the sense that,
apart.
yeah, and
Ripped
she's
me
like just
apart.
looking for a rich husband to take care of her. Like that would be a lot easier than doing all the, work she's been doing, she thinks, except for that clearly that path had not worked for her before. And she's sort of unable to think outside of that system. And I think that Becca's really mad about that. She can see it happening. It annoys her. I don't think she has the vocabulary yet to be like, hey, mom, you're a patsy for the patriarchy and you don't need to be. And the fact that you're doing that is hurtful to me because it devalues my own sense of womanhood because you're the person I look to define that for myself. But that's what's happening is like she's watching her own mother pick herself apart into something smaller and less powerful because that's what she thinks it's going to take to make it, whatever the fuck that means to her. And Becca is smart enough to know that that's not the way. And I don't think that if Louise was not the way that she is, I don't think Becca would be susceptible to the squad. The fact that her most central authority figure in her life is somebody who she can't trust to establish a sense of their self outside of this, despite the fact that her daughter desperately needs her to. She wouldn't be enticed by a group of girls who are like, hey, we murder someone once a month. Want to kick it? And Becca instead is like, fuck yeah, I do. Yeah, let's do this. Because for once, she has seen people she thinks operating outside of this system. And of course, they're not. They police each other's bodies with, I would say, even more brutality than her mother does her own. But like, but just the opportunity for her to imagine a world where that isn't the way that she has to look at herself is so enticing that she's literally willing to kill. And I would imagine a lot of cis girls feel the same way sometimes, where like you see your mother dieting again, you see her, taking shit at work because of who she is and not being able to assert herself the way that she ought to be able to. And it makes you mad. And I think one of the reasons sometimes girls resent their mothers is because we resent them for not being as powerful as we know they are. And when they do that, they're also telling us that we can't be that powerful either. And that's sort of like the awful message that Louise is constantly sending Becca, even though she is actually, I think, a good mom. She's trying her best. She gives her a good home. She keeps her fed. She keeps her clothed. She loves her. She's there for her when things are bad. She just wants her to go, like, have fun. But she also comes with all this baggage, and she can't help that. I
Well,
don't
you
think
made her a
Louise is a
human
bad person.
mom. I mean,
Yeah,
you made
she's
her
a human mom.
human. Yeah. And the thing is that so many times, especially in a story like this, I mean, think back to all of our other uh, teen squad dramedies.
Yeah.
Plenty of times the parents are just sort of put in this either absent parental role or perfect parental role. Either the
Yeah.
mom
Either
comes in
you
and
have the parents
she's
from
floating
Easy
in and
A.
she's got the pearls and the heels and she's just mom,
Mm-hmm.
or the parents are never part of the story whatsoever. And you've given us a mother who is pretty openly trying to put a brave face on the fact that she played by society's rules. She got married, she did everything she was supposed to. The husband was still a dickbag and cheated on her, and you know
Infidelity happens. I just think that it's extra cruel when it happens to somebody who spent their entire life being obedient.
mhm.
I think that's the real, for me, the like, ugh, of getting cheated on as a woman is not just the infidelity, because infidelity happens and monogamy is difficult. But I think that there is something like extra insulting of like, what else did you want from me? Like, I have been obedient for so long and still this happens to me. And I feel like that's the anger and like the presence that Louise brings to this world. Is like, doesn't matter. You can do everything right.
What does Beyonce say? You can do everything right, you can be perfect and still lose. And still lose.
The fact I get so heated about Jay-Z cheating on Beyonce still. It's not my business.
Or
They are
that
adults.
cheated on Halle Berry, like the fuck.
I just,
Why?
it just, it still makes me mad. It's not my business. Celebrities' lives aren't my business. And yet here I am, like, how fucking could you?
100%. um so I do appreciate that Becca is raised in a house with rules, a house that respects traditions, and like you were kind of talking about, sort of not subservience but obedience to rules and to society and to patriarchy. Um, but she does trade one set of rules for another set of rules, and there's an
Mm-hmm.
attraction. There seems to almost be an attraction to having rules. Okay, so we
Yeah.
you can be part, but there's more rules here.
Yes. I
Um,
think rules are incredibly attractive.
tell me about that. What's attractive about rules?
Okay, if you're a person who's never fit in, right? Like you just like are always a loser and you don't know why. If there are rules to follow and then you will fit in, holy shit.
Mm.
Like all you've been waiting for your whole life is someone just to tell you what the secret rules are so you can get along with other girls and then they will like you and you won't be so weird anymore. And Becca gets that. Like, she gets that moment of like, this is it. Like, all this time I've been a weirdo, and now they're just going to tell me what rules to follow. Done. I'll never eat lunch again. No problem. And she's so desperate for that. And I feel so much for her. Like, pity is not the right word, but I feel such a sense of sadness for her that she's just so lonely and desperate that was enough. And beyond being enough, it was more than enough. It was like better than she could have ever imagined, because finally she had friends and she finally gets to feel powerful. And it's like, it's not until I feel like the very last minute that she starts to question what that means. And by then it's kind of too late in a lot of ways.
Would you take the bite? Is there a
No.
time when you would have?
Yes. High school. Would you take the bite?
Now?
Yeah, now. Now would you take the bite? He has to think about it.
Oh. Oh no. No? Yeah. I guess you have to think about it. There's at least some yes in there, right?
Okay, it has to be. Imagine it this way though. It's not just would you take the bite, it's three of the coolest people you've ever met in your whole fucking life who wield all the
Yeah.
power that you wish you had come up to you and
Sure.
they're like, listen, here's the deal. You can be one of us. We'll tell you all the rules that it takes to be just like us.
Okay.
And we're going to punish people you don't like who
Uh-huh.
hurt you
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah, this is
But you
really
have to
making me
become a
horny. I'm
fucking
very
monster.
horny for this bite right now.
Yeah, it's enticing, you know? Like, it's a sexy idea. I
It is
think
a sexy
now I would
idea.
say no, just because I like am squeamish about violence. But as a teenager, I would have been like, which leg? Let's get biting,
You
you
know, for
know?
somebody who's squeamish about violence, you sure do write some books with some swashbuckling violence
I know, I
in
have a
them.
problem. My imagination is such an unfriendly place. I wish it weren't like this. I love people like Becky Chambers who write like science fiction with like really high stakes, but they're like never violent. Everyone's safe. It's just sort of like, I don't know. She has such a beautiful and hopeful and optimistic imagination, and I don't. My
Yeah, I don't
brain is
either.
just like a horrible swamp creature, constantly imagining other ways that I could die. So, like, oh well, so it goes.
Yeah. Is there a through line in your work, do you think, of a touch of violence and a touch of what if I made my own rules?
Yes, I do. I think I am always questioning what justice means, and that begs
Mm.
questions about violence and rules. Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea is largely about justice on sort of like a national scale. Squad
Hmm.
is obviously about rape culture and justice. The Worst Ronin, which is doesn't come out for a while, but that one's like largely about when somebody has hurt you, what does justice look like?
Mm.
When someone takes someone from you, like if someone in your family is killed. And then the sequel to Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea, which I'm editing now, is also about national, like international justice, and like what does that look like? How do you create justice after one empire has done so much damage?
There's a sequel.
Baby, there's a sequel.
Oh my god. Get into my veins. Give me the sequel now.
I'm having such a hard time editing it, but yeah, the plot's banging. I'll say that much. I'm very proud of the plot, but I have to do some like tense changes and stuff like that. And
Oh,
boy, if you want the boringest edits that are also like painful to do,
mm,
you can't outsource them because you have to make so many judgment calls.
I
I hate it.
know.
Anyway,
Yeah,
that's what I'm working on right now.
yeah, yeah. Our mutual friend Maggie Tokuda-Hall pointed out that the common through line in my work seems to be, what if my parents loved me? What?
Oh, baby. Oh
What? She's like, you keep writing these very pastoral like these, no matter what. I mean, if it's like there's political violence or there's this or there's that, she's like, you just keep asking the question, like, what if I had parents that loved me? I'm just like, oh no, oh
no.
no,
Oh,
that's
man.
okay. So that's what I've been paying a therapist for.
Don't call Megan unless you're ready to have real talk. That's the thing,
No,
baby.
no, not at all. Not at all.
Oh, I love
Um,
her.
I always make friends with people who are better than you at things because it's great.
Oh, it's the
What
best.
so let's talk about sort of teen dramedies generally speaking, because
Yeah.
Squad easily have the movie rights been sold, by the way? Are you is there casting
Yeah,
announcements?
there's
Is
a
there
TV deal, but that's
yes,
kind of
yes, yes,
it
yes,
for
yes.
right now.
Yeah.
No casting or anything like that, but it's Picture Start and Lionsgate are the two who have the rights to it. So that's a studio and a production company, and then they need like a channel to put it on. But they're
Well,
going TV with it, which I think is
it,
dope.
that would be amazing. I would love to be killed. So if anybody involved with the casting listens to this,
Yeah.
I will say I look exactly like the last blonde guy that they kill. So I'm just putting that out
Oh, it's
there.
Stanford?
Yeah. I'll
Oh
be
my
the
God,
Stanford. Y'all
you.
can kill me at Stanford. That's fine. I'm
Oh
100%
my
okay with
God,
that.
you do look a little like him.
I do. I do. It's bad. In a
Yeah,
bad
but
way.
your
It's
hair doesn't say I date rape people. And I feel like that's what his hair says. His hair says
we could make my hair say that.
I have taken advantage of people. And your hair says I'm a lovely little wood nymph. Please don't hurt me.
Oh.
Like, am I wrong?
I let my hair rest today, so
Yeah.
thank you for letting saying that it looks like anything other than did you try? Did you try?
Oh
Did
my
you
God,
sit
you're
when this
adorable. Quit it.
you're precious. Okay, so talk about some of the influences. Let's talk about some of these
Yeah.
other sort of supernatural teen
So I
dramedies.
consider it Jennifer's Body's daughter.
I was trying to find a way to
Yeah.
bring up Jennifer's Body
It's
because
Jennifer's
it's
Body's daughter. Like, I think Jennifer's Body, more than any other single piece of media, helped me develop the sense of humor that's central to this story. I
mhm.
think that what Jennifer's Body does best is putting the horror up against the absurdity of being a teenager. I think that it's brilliant and perfect, and everyone needs to watch that movie. And I don't know what else to say except for that I'm obsessed with it and I love it, and it holds up so well, and I love it, and
And
I
there's
want
also
everyone to
never been a
watch it.
sequel.
There's never been a sequel.
There's never been a sequel. Sometimes things are perfect and leave
Sometimes
open-ended
things are
questions.
perfect. The Power by Naomi Alderman is probably the other book that had the most influence on it. It's the book about in a world where women, cis women, one day just start getting the ability to electrocute men to death, and men have none of that power, and it like completely shifts every geopolitical, thing in the entire world. Um, and
Love
it's
that.
another one where I really appreciated that she gives us the time to indulge in the revenge fantasy aspect
Mhm.
of it while still asking something more deeply. And that was something I was really concerned with as well. Um, and then, people always say like Heather's, Mean Girls, whatever. I didn't watch those movies a ton like everyone else did.
I've seen
Um,
Heather's once. That
yeah,
was
I
enough
like
for me.
hadn't really seen Heather's. I know I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I enjoyed parts of it,
Mhm.
but mostly I was just sort of unsettled. And
Yeah.
I
It takes a weird
rewatched
turn.
Mean Girls recently and hated it.
Really?
Spicy hot take. Yeah, I didn't like it. And what I will say
Wait,
about all of those is
why?
that they do.
D
There's so many reasons. The casual racism constantly is exhausting.
Wait, but
Like,
you just said it was fine. What?
no, no, no. It's not that casual racism is fine. It's that when a person of color writes about casual racism is different when a movie that centers a white person
That's
and
true.
only white people
That's
is
true.
racist to background
Tina
characters.
Fey is
That's a
not the
really
right
different
person to write about
no, that's a
racism.
really different power dynamic than
Hmm.
me, an Asian person, writing a story about my Asian main character who
Hmm.
experiences casual racism and doesn't call it out because she's just so excited to be there is really different than Asian characters in the background who literally none of them speak English and like are treated like they're not even human beings. They're just set dressing. They're just punchlines. That's really different. Um Tina Fey, god damn it, Tina. Like
You had one job.
well, it's not. She had so many jobs and she did so many of them well, but one of them that she really fucking shit the bed on was racism. She's not good at
She
it. She
does it
needs
through, there is a through line in her work where she does tend to lean on racist,
racist
homophobic, and
stereotypes.
transphobic stereotypes from like the 80s. Like
Yes.
she keeps wanting to
Yeah.
make like uh those, I feel like she really wants to write a movie for John Belushi. Like just really bad wants to write a
Yes.
movie
And
for
bless
him.
her. Like I get it. That's formative for you, but also I'm so tired of it. And
Yes.
also, you want to tell me that the two smartest, most powerful girls in that high school, Regina George and Lindsay Lohan's character, whose name I already forgot, are going to compete over
Caddy.
some fucking boy. We can do better than that. Like writing wise, I feel like we can do better than that.
Okay, let's do better than
Um,
that. So how would you rewrite Mean Girls?
how would I rewrite Mean Girls?
Would they fall in love? I mean, would you just throw some queerness in it?
Obviously, I would. It's just a matter
Obviously.
of with who. Yeah, I feel like Regina being
I think it makes way more sense if it becomes a love triangle between like Gretchen, who is Regina's like sexual plaything, but they have no
mm,
chemistry, and then Caddy comes in, and then there is
Patty. That's right.
chemistry. Yeah, Katie, Caddy. Yeah.
Or like, what's the girl's name who's played by that actress I have a huge crush on? The girl she keeps accusing of being a lesbian,
Oh, the. Oh wait,
who they're
no.
very
Oh,
careful to.
oh, oh, oh. I don't remember. I don't remember, but she's in everything, and she's great, and she was in the Sex
Yeah, and
Show, and
she's
now she's in
so
the Stephen King
attractive.
show, and she's just great at
Lizzie
everything.
Kaplan.
Yes, her.
Lizzie Kaplan
Sorry,
as
Lizzie Kaplan.
Janice. If
Yes.
Lizzie Kaplan's character and Regina George have kind of a secret thing going on, and then Katie comes in,
Uh
and
huh.
Katie and the goth girl have something
Ah.
going on, I think that that's a more interesting reason for Regina to want to destroy her, but also be attracted to her. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you could have just had like a much more hilarious and complicated story where nobody like. I think one of the things that's nice about Mean Girls is that ultimately Katie becomes one of them. Like she really is a mean girl.
Sure, she's fully a plastic.
Yeah, and I thought that that was really believable and successful the way that that's done. But it would be interesting to see her do that, not necessarily in competition for a boy who is clearly gay.
Well, yes, both
I mean,
both as is
so
written
pretty.
and in real life.
And
Yes.
in real life, as soon as I saw him as a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race, I was like, yes.
Yeah. Well, honey, we all knew, all us little baby gays knew way back in like when the movie came out. We were like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
You know
you're
what?
the
Actually, you know what would have been great is if they did the plot the exact same way, except for that he's like, ladies, I am gay.
I am very
That would have
gay."
I would have loved that. I would have
See,
loved that movie so much
redo
more.
Mean Girls and it's just everyone's gay. Oops, all gays. It's
That's
just
how I
oops
want to
all.
retell everything. And
Yes.
also, the plastics wouldn't have all been white.
No, that's also
Like, come
bad.
on.
But
You
that's
really want to?
also
Okay.
like 2003. So
Yeah, fine. Whatever.
yes.
I didn't like it.
I want to briefly mention the fact that you do this kind of conversation regularly now on your new podcast, Failure to Adapt,
Yeah.
which I am obsessed with. I
Thank
apologize.
you. Our
I'm not
next
as
episode's an interview with me and Lisa, which Red super generously did, which I think is so kind of him. So a
So
little bit of a
were
stretch.
you as harsh about your own
No.
writing as you are easily if I this is the only cultural reference that's coming to mind, but you are the Simon Cowell of that show. You are just vicious.
It's not my fault that we keep doing, because we try to find things with like really broad appeal. And
Uh-huh.
things with really broad appeal are always going to be the things that are easiest to critique brutally, I
Uh-huh.
feel like,
Sure.
because they're, kind of made to be milk toast,
Uh-huh.
like, and so someone like me is always going to have beef with them. And Red is just a person who likes to have a good time, who's normal. And so he comes across things, you know, uh, like the Paula Abdul. But um, I love making that. So Failure to Adapt is a show that I co-host with Red Scott, who's a stand-up comedian. We have really different perspectives on what makes something good. I think he's really smart. I really enjoy chatting with him. We text about movies and TV like we're recording a podcast all the time anyway, so it just felt like a natural extension. And we do book to TV or movies adaptations, and we talk about which was better, what choices did they make, what changes did they make, where are there missed opportunities, etc. And it's fucking fun. It's been a blast, although we have put a halt to recording for a while because we recorded too far out, and now we're like both really tired.
If you had your druthers, would Matt Damon be part of the TV adaptation of Squad? And if so, how would
No.
you kill him?
Oh, he's too old, right? Like, because Squad is about young people.
Yeah, but if it's a TV adaptation and multiple seasons need to happen, surely there's a predatory teacher or something somewhere that Matt
Yeah, he
Damon
could
can
be like
play.
a professor at Stanford,
Sure.
with like a little
Season 2 when
too,
we're following Amanda.
yeah, who's like a little too familiar with the students, the
Uh-huh.
young, pretty girl students.
Yep.
And I don't think that's a big stretch for casting Matt Damon there. But I like, if there was going to be an actor, because I feel like if an actor takes that role where they're like, I want to play the piece of shit who you're going to kill, and I'm going to like enjoy it, and I'm going to like eat the scenery for this one little cameo that I'm going to make, because obviously I'm not here for the whole ride. Like, what straight dude actor would I want to actually give that cred, you
Yes.
know? And it wouldn't be Matt Damon.
Is it Tom Hiddleston? I feel like that's the only other like
He's Loki, right? He's fine.
yeah.
Um, who's hilarious? Like, who would be so good at that? You know who'd be? James Marsden. That's who I would cast as like the charismatic professor, because he's like so charming, and there's just something kind of off. Where
Yeah.
you're like too perfect. You're
So you've
uncanny
seen Dead to
valley.
Me, right?
Dead to Me?
Yes.
No, I have not.
Okay, go to
Is he
Netflix.
good in that?
Yes. And he
I
does
love
get
him.
killed, and it's great. But that's not a spoiler because
Like,
that's the entire conceit of the first season is that we've killed James Marsden. Oopsie. What do we do about
love
it
that.
now? And there's a lot of
Oh
sapphic
my God, yes,
tension.
I
And
have. Duh.
yes,
Sorry. I
with
loved Dead
Christina
to Me.
Applegate and
Yes. Oh my God, that show's amazing. I had just forgotten the name of it, but then you're like, we killed James Marsden. Yep.
yeah.
Loved it. Loved it. I love James Marsden. I think he's a perfect corpse. He's always magnificent.
It's the tagline for this episode. I love James Marsden. He makes a perfect corpse.
He
That's
does. He's so good at it.
if there is an expansion when it
Mhm.
does get its own adaptation, what's something that you couldn't do in graphic novel form that you want to explore on screen?
Oh gosh. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. Um, hmm. Because I feel like graphic novels, you can kind of do anything. I think
You
like jump scares, like it would be fun for the vibes to have a few more jump scares. I think especially if you expanded it such that whatever the central squad is, like if you're
Mhm.
following these girls or Amanda and the girls from Stanford, if there's another group of werewolves that they're in competition with, jump scares, which can be accomplished with noise, which you can't do
Mhm.
on the page, would be
Mhm.
really satisfying and would really help with the like spooky ooky ooky vibes, which I love. So I think that would be it. I would want more jump scares and more like gasp moments. Because I think, those are a little harder to make with a graphic novel by merit of you can look ahead to the pictures before you read the text, etc.
Hmm.
So there can be a little bit of a mismatch sometimes in the way that timing is accomplished. But in movies or TV, if someone slams a door or like jumps out behind you, like all of that happens at once and you get that suddenness. So, and it's horror. It's horror comedy, but you could, you know, I love that you can do it for both. So, some jump scares that are silly, one jump scare that's really scary. I like it when it's more weighted towards silly ones though, where you're like, oh, it's you. Love those. Very goosebumps.
Oh, Goosebumps screwed me up as a kid. I was an Animorphs kid. Yeah, no,
Uh,
I'm a wimp. Yeah, see, oh, you get it.
oh, I get it. I loved Animorphs.
Loved Animorphs. That's if we I'm still upset that of all of the children's properties that have gotten dark and gritty reboots over the years, that nobody has ever done a dark and gritty reboot of Animorphs. And I'm like, listen,
Well,
I'm
isn't the ending
available.
pretty dark and gritty on its own? Like it's like
Exactly.
about war. You don't
And
really
they
have
all
to
die
change
at the
anything.
end. Like they all
Yeah.
sacrifice themselves and die. Like the source is already dark and like people die. Like I was 9 reading this, and I'm like, this is
Catherine Applegate will come and fuck you up, man.
she will, or whoever ghost wrote those,
No, no, that was
whatever.
all Catherine Applegate. She's
She
the
did
real deal.
outlines. She did outlines
No, she
for
wrote them.
after about the first, I think it's either 16 or 20.
I'm gonna
She
need
wrote.
citation. This is a
It's
Newbery Award
on
winner
the
you're talking about.
Wikipedia page, my dear. It is a
Okay.
well-known thing.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's well known. She wrote extensive outlines, and then a ghostwriter filled in all the blanks.
Was it
And
her
it
husband?
was
Because it might
I
have
was
been Michael.
I was I was disappointed as well when I became an adult and realized that. But yeah, fact check
Hmm.
me.
I'm going to. I'm gonna ask her.
Wait, you know her?
I mean, like, I used to do events around the Bay Area for like years and years and years. So I wouldn't say we're like best friends, but we know each other. Um,
If
I would
I'm
feel a
happy
little
to be
weird just
wrong.
contacting her out of the blue and being like, "Hey, baby, did you ghostwrite this?" But like, if I run into her at a thing, I will ask her.
Hey, this asshole said that you.
Yeah, and I'll be like, "I defended your honor," and she'll be like, "I absolutely had this ghostwritten," and I'll be like, "I will see myself out."
Wikipedia is not exactly the source of all
Exactly.
knowledge, and I don't
And
have.
she's not the kind of person who'd be policing her own Wikipedia page. She's like off living her best life.
Either way, I love those books. They are a
Yeah.
treasured formative memory for me.
Mhm.
But I wonder, because you are a mom,
Mhm.
you're a parent, you have a little one now. Uh,
True.
what kinds of you seem to? I mean, you also write for kids or write for young
Mhm.
adults, younger minds. How are you? What has writing in that age group, and sort of living in that sort of world of young adult fiction, young adult writing, stories for younger folks, being so aware of the perspective of younger people, what is that doing for how is that influencing the way that you raise your little one? What kinds of is it making you more aware of things to avoid, of things to stay away from, cycles you're breaking?
Um, okay. So I will say I was a children's bookseller for about a decade.
Hmm.
And then I've basically been interested in telling stories for specifically young people since I graduated from college in 2007. So that's like a while where that's been my entire focus, my entire life's calling, what makes me passionate. And so I do always come at it with the philosophy that kids are smart and that we should make media that meets them where they're capable of going, as opposed to assuming that kids need to be coddled or kids aren't, able to handle kinds of complexity or make decisions for themselves. And so when I write for kids, I try just to always respect them. And now that I have one and he is not yet 2, sometimes I think maybe I overshot it, but then I remember he's still learning words. But it's amazing. I make that joke just because reading with him is like hilarious, and mostly he's in it for the sounds and the noises that I make, and which books have pictures of trains in them. But that being said, it's wild how much he's already able to understand about the world, and it's clear how closely he's watching Adam and I for examples of just like, oh, well, monkey see, monkey do. I do what you do. And so sometimes you see your worst habits like mimicked back at you. So now I'm extra aware of not just respecting them, but also not trying to pretend like they are going to be perfect in ways that I was unable to be. I think a lot of kids lit is very aspirational, and that's great. But I think we also need books for grubby little goblin children like me and like my son now, where we can see ourselves and our many imperfections and accept ourselves for that, which is not to say like, oh, let's fuck off on all self-improvement or whatever. Just that like feeling less alone about being a grubby little goblin child now and again is just as important. And so, I guess I'm even more staunch in my desire to write those kinds of stories where characters are morally gray, where people are not necessarily good and bad, and where they make bad decisions and they hurt each other sometimes, not because they're bad people, but because they're learning and they're, dealing with things for the first time. I think it's really easy for adults to forget how intense everything is when you're a kid because you have to do everything for the first time. It's hard enough even when you've done it a bunch of times to operate responsibly in love or professionally or whatever. But we expect kids to know what to do right away because we read them some like Berenstein Bear books or whatever. I don't know. I want to respect them and I want to give them time to fuck up. That's what I want for kids.
The power of bad
Does that
decisions.
make sense? I feel like I kind of like rambled because I'm so passionate about it. I don't have like
appreciate that because that's the kind of stories that I like to tell as well, is the fact that you are going to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it. And sometimes it's fun to make bad decisions. So,
sometimes it's fun to do bad things for no reason.
like eat boys that are
okay. That's for a reason, though.
That are assholes and say stuff like, "Hold on, I even wrote it down because I was like, really, want to see something cool?" And then the thing he wants to show her is his penis, and I'm like, "Oh,
listen,
I think
has that never happened to you?
I think I've hooked up with you."
You fell for it. So did I.
Like, sometimes they're just pretty and there and want to see something cool. And you're like, I know exactly where this is going, but yes, I would like to see that. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes. Before we end, I do want to say that those little moments, like all the like little shitty dude moments, every single party, every single one of those are something I have either experienced or witnessed. And so I hope people check out Squad. There is some emotional realism against all of this goofiness.
When I got my signed copy, which was very personalized to me, and doesn't have my name there, but one day it will be.
Was it supposed to be personalized to you?
No, my God.
Oh,
stop.
okay. I was like, oh no.
I just bought it as soon as I saw that there were signed copies available. I got in my car and I drove to the nearest cemetery so I could take photos for you.
I saw that. That's fucking dedication, and I was touched. If you're not taking selfies with my book in a graveyard.
What are
you doing? Are we friends?
Yep. Maggie Tokuda-Hall, thank you so much for being here. I know that your time is precious, and I am so grateful to have this time with you. If folks want to find more about you, more about Squad, and more about all the work that you do, where can they do that?
You can find me online on my website, prettyokmaggie.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at EMTEEHALL or on TikTok now, where I'm still learning, but you can find me at Maggie
Oh,
Tokuda-Hall.
please. Oh, please. This
I'm
this
learning.
this maven of social media went viral in like a day and a half. Like you are just I hate you. You're just so good at it. Thank you so much for being here. All of the best.
Thanks for
Congratulations on
having me.
Squad and all of the best success on everything going forward.
Congratulations on the release of your debut book as
Oh,
well, A Dabbler's Guide to Witchcraft. My
yes.
copy has arrived and I'm very
Oh,
excited about it.
oh, well,
I'm
thank
not a,
you. I
but
would
I'm
have just sent
excited
you
to
one.
learn.
I didn't know you were interested in my book, or I would have just sent you one. But thank
Oh, you're
you.
very sweet. No, you make people buy your book. You
Oh,
make them
sorry.
buy
Sorry. Buy my book. Damn it.
There you go. That's right. There you
Meg,
go.
speaking not to like summon her twice in one conversation, but she did text me
Oh,
last
she
night.
loves being summoned.
She texted me last night and she said, "You know, you have to shake the can and make people go like review your book now, right? You have to talk about your book on social media." I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, but I feel bad. I feel like I'm just kind of in everybody's face with it all the time." She's like, "No, do
You
it."
know what has been so affirming to me is I've been like fucking obnoxious on social media, banging the drum, doing the thing that you tell authors to do, whatever. And then 2 days after Squad came out, somebody who interacts with me all the time was like, "Oh, you have a new book out?" And I was like, "See, this is why you have to just keep screaming."
Yeah. Somebody who's
No
followed me for
one's
years was
watching you
like,
that
"You have a
carefully.
podcast?" I was like, "For like 12
I
years
only
now,
stream
yes."
about it 2 times a week, but okay, cool. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, people have no idea. It's fine. Tell everyone about your book. Get those coins, Firelight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.